Now, it's barely 2 weeks to go to Kenya's general elections. The race between President Uhuru Kenyatta and opposition leader Raila Odinga appears to be tightening, with analysts predicting a runoff. Both leading candidates have refused to appear in a televised debate. The economy is a major cause for concern for voters. Now, a common problem for many African nations is economic inequality. In Kenya, 62% of the country's wealth is owned by just 0.02% of the population. Kenya's food prices have seen the biggest increase in 5 years in May. That is due to a devastating drought. Sky-high prices have pushed inflation in the second quarter to nearly 11%. And according to the United Nations, Kenya has the highest unemployment rate in East Africa, where around 40% of the population is jobless. TRT World's Africa reporter Fidelis Mba is here with us now. Fidelis, thank you as always for being with us. Tell us a little bit about what's at stake here. That last issue especially that we read there about rising food prices, that's quite a source of concern for voters, isn't it?
Yeah, well, just to point out that shortly before we got into the studio, the main opposition candidate, Raila Odinga, had showed up for the debate. So they were still expecting the president. And coming to, the question about rising food prices, it's something of major concern to Kenyans because the average people, what they care about most about, how they are able to survive because
Always.
They are not really thinking about the big projects.
Absolutely.
We've had, this has actually been worsened because of the drought, because they had suffered a devastating drought, and because of that, there was a shortfall in rain. Rainfall was not as expected, so it affected the harvest.
It's affected 3 harvests in total now, hasn't it?
Yes, and then you have the issue of government making promises to import maize, because maize is the main staple food. So government didn't meet up in terms of importing these food items on time. They waited until it was very late when people had, the prices of goods had actually hit the roof. And then even when they did, they had to employ the services of middlemen who were mostly politicians, who had to, instead of government directly importing this, they allowed people to act as middlemen, bringing this maize at very exorbitant prices, so which has resulted in inflation across the board.
Possibly opening the door to some corruption?
Well, that has always been a major accusation by the opposition. They've accused Kenyatta's government of being the most corrupt in the country's history, even though he's denied that allegation, saying that he's tried his best to cut down, on corruption, and then that he's not to be blamed, but the anti-corruption body that has been very slow in terms of prosecutions. Okay,
let's talk about the two candidates. How do the two candidates differ in terms of their economic policies, especially with regards to the poor?
The main opposition candidate, Raila Odinga, has come out to say that when he's elected, that within 90 days, he's going to cut down the price of food, especially things like milk, maize, and sugar. And he's also talking about reducing the high cost of rent, because accommodation is a major issue, especially in Nairobi, the main city, the capital city. So he's saying in 90 days, he's going to cut down, even though people are saying that might almost be impossible.
And his rival?
And then for Kenyatta, he's talking about consolidation, because he's saying that he's reduced the cost of governance, and he's trying to also open up investment for people, so that people should vote him to be able to consolidate on the economic gains they've done, witnessed in the last few years.
Fidelis Mba, Africa reporter, thank you so much.